Hi friends, thanks so much for joining me for another YouTube video. I want to talk today about hotkeys. So I want to show you my 25-ish favorite hotkeys that I use in Pro Tools. So let's get started. First, you've got some obvious ones that I'm sure you already know. Command S for save, Command Z undo, Command Q for quit, and Command W for close window. The first one I want to talk about is if you're starting a brand new session, you're starting from scratch, and you need to create tracks. You can do that by using Shift Command N. That will pull up new tracks. If you want to change them from mono to stereo, you can use Command left and right arrows. And then if you want to cycle through the type of track, you can use Command up and down arrows. So you can look at audio tracks, aux inputs, master fader, VCA, MIDI tracks, or instrument tracks. So for today's tutorial, I'm going to create 3 instrument tracks. To label them, you just double click. This one I'm going to make a piano. And then to cycle down through the tracks, you could just use Command Enter or Command up and down arrows. So Command down, I'll label this B3, and then Command down again, I'll label this synth. Now if I want to map out the session before I get started to put in memory locations, you can just use Enter on the numpad. Let's say I want to go over by 1 bar because that's where the intro is going to be. I can use numpad 1 and 2 to go left or right by 1 measure increments. If I'm ready to record, I can go ahead and just record, enable the tracks that I'm ready to record, and then on the numpad I can click 3 and that'll start recording. Although I would need, an actual plugin there and then probably start at the beginning. Now if you're at the intro and you don't have any pre-roll built in, you can easily toggle on the pre-roll feature, which is Command K. And that'll show up in your expanded transport. To find the expanded transport, you can just right click up here and it'll show you everything that you've got up there. So I have my expanded transport open, and then here's pre-roll, post-roll. I like to set mine at 2 bars for pre-roll, so that way I can have 2 bars of click before I start recording, 4 bars of post-roll, so that way once I end the punch, if a guitar is ringing out or keys are ringing out or something like that, it'll still record for another 4 measures. Let's say I'm ready to record drums, and instead of going through and clicking each of these record enable buttons, I could select all of them. I could make a group, which is Command G, and then I could make sure that all of the globals are on for record enable, solo, and input monitoring. Or I could select all of them and then hold Shift Option Record, and that will turn them all on or turn them all off. And I can do the same for solo, and the same for mute, and the same for input monitoring. This also applies to plugins. So let's say I wanted to bypass all of the first plugins in each track. I could do Shift Option and then Command click for bypass, or if I wanted to deactivate all of them, I can add in the control button and then click again, and that will deactivate. So if you don't want to select all of the tracks and do Shift Option and then click for recording, enabling, or whatever, if you already have them in a group, I like to just place the cursor in the track lane, and then you can easily do Shift R for record, Shift S for solo, Shift M for mute, or Shift I for input monitoring. Now let's say you need to just solo a single track out of them and you're in group mode. Now you could just toggle over to the mix window, which is Command plus or Command equals, and then all you have to do is click the letter that corresponds to the group that you made. So for my drum group, it's D. So I just click D and it will toggle off the group. Then I can toggle back over to the arrange window, and then I can select my snare top or something if I need to solo that, and then just Shift S for solo. Easy as that. But I also want the snare top V7 and the snare bottom mic in there. So I can go down with the cursor using the colon button and then shift solo to add that on. Down again, shift S to solo that. Now I can hear the whole snare drum. But now I only want to hear the bottom, so I'm going to go up using P, and then take those out of solo. Now let's dive into some editing. I need to get a better look at the tracks in the lane, so I'm going to zoom in using T. If I've zoomed in too far, I can zoom out using R. If I need a really good look and need to expand the track to the full window, I can click E and it'll zoom in as far as it can go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn groups back on. So that's Command plus D for the drum group, and then toggle back over, because I want to go ahead and tidy up this track. So I need to trim the front end. If I want to trim stuff from the left, you can press A. At the end, if I need to get rid of some of this tail, I can click S. If you need a longer clip, if you want to duplicate and make this just a never-ending drum loop, you can simply select the tracks and then Command D will duplicate them forever and ever and ever. Now I don't like these hard cuts, so I want to go ahead and create a fade. So you can select where you want the fade, and you can do D for a fade, and you can select your fade preferences inside of preferences, like what you want your automatic fades to be. I like the S fade, but you can click it by simply double clicking the fade and then changing it to standard or whatever. Now you can click anywhere and then just keep adding on the fade. Another way to do it would be to highlight, and then you can do Command F and that'll create a fade for you. And then for the ending fade, you can use the shortcut G, and that'll create a fade as well. Now, if you don't want the fade on a grid point, you can easily use tilde to shuffle through your different modes. You can go into slip mode and then just select and then put your fade there. But what I like to do is Command click where I want the fade, and it'll take you out of grid mode, and it'll let you put your cursor wherever you want inside of the track lanes, and then you can put in your fade. Now let's zoom in a little bit more and look at these room mics. You can see that they're a little delayed, and I want them to be closer in time with the rest of the tracks. So I'm going to toggle over, turn off groups. Then I'm going to select this track, and you can nudge the track by using comma and period. Comma to go left, period to go right. You can adjust your nudge value in the transport bar. You can change it by bars, beats, you can use minutes, seconds, time code, or samples. I find that 10 milliseconds is good for me and what I need it to do. So let's see how much it takes to get these in line. Looks like maybe 20 milliseconds. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. Make sure that we're good here at the end. And now it's better in line. But I am seeing that some of these hits are a little bit off. So I'm going to turn groups back on, so that way I can be editing all the tracks at once. And what you can do is tab will get you to the next transient. So now I've selected this transient. And then I'm going to select the next one, so that way I don't affect that one when I move this. And then I'm just going to nudge this a little bit more on the grid. Now I've created two cuts, and the way to create a cut is Command E. And now that I'm ready to fade them back together, I can highlight and then select Command F for fade, and then adjust your fade lengths. Or if you're familiar with Beat Detective, you can go into Command 8 and you can go down to smoothing, and it will smooth the cuts as well. Now to toggle that window on and off, you could do fat finger, which is Command Option W, and that will just toggle back on the most recent plugin window you had open. So if you're in your kick, you can toggle that off by using Command or Fat Finger W or Bear Claw, and now you've made your adjustments. Cool, that's sounding good. Now I can go up to my piano track and play along with it. I liked that performance, but I think it could be a little bit tighter. So if I need to quantize that, I can just select the track, and for MIDI quantization or velocity adjustments or whatever, the shortcut is Option 0. Then you can say if you want to quantize, change velocity, change duration, transpose, etc., and then adjust your quantize grid and whatnot. You can quantize similarly with Beat Detective for the drums. So you can select the drums, Command Numpad 8, and that will pull up Beat Detective. Cool, that's sounding good. But I want to make a few adjustments, so I'm going to go over into the mix window. So I want the stereo rooms up a little bit more. I'm going to grab that and turn it up a little bit. But it's going up too much for me. So if I need it to move at smaller increments, I can do Command and then drag the fader, and it'll move it in tenths of a whole number, I guess. Now if I want to hear what that sounds like at Unity, you can just do Option click, and that'll throw the fader up to Unity. Cool. So I'm going to put my fades on this selection, and then I think I'm ready to bounce. So in order to bounce, you're going to want to highlight the amount of time you want, and then the shortcut for bounce is Option Command B. And then you can label it, and then do whatever you want with file types, etc. Or if you want to export all of the individual lanes or all of the individual tracks, you'll need to consolidate all of them. So you'll need to select all of them, and then the shortcut for consolidation is Shift Option 3. Now to export all of these tracks, you'll do Shift Command K, and then you'll select where you want them to go. I know that was a lot to get through, but those help me with every single session that I ever work on, and it makes me so fast. So I hope you learned something. Don't forget, you can download the PDF of all of these hotkeys from my website at www.kylewmay.com. I've put a link in the bio of this video. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe so I can continue to make more videos just like this one for you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.